for lots of different reasons, right? It's like lightning in a bottle. Take two. Well, I can't compete with that. So.
Say it.
Got the picture of Jordan in the shower. Like, you know. Well, Nasri was a hot ticket, man. He was a firecracker, you know, and it's like, it's the perfect, I mean, you know, it's all, everybody's seeing it. Obviously, like, you know, Donnie recognizing the talent, but again, Jamie Roberts, our lawyer, who's, you know, he comes from a music background too. So he's always been that not your average lawyer, which is pretty cool, you know what I mean? And he knew this might work, you know, which is sweet. And then you have Nasri, who was just a ball of energy. Couldn't stop writing songs. Like everything was let's go. Everything was a song, and he would big bang boom. So we had that element. His partner Adam was a great vocal recorder. You know what I mean? For us to feel comfortable, he recorded all those vocals, which was fantastic. And then, you know, I mean, personally, I mean, just to touch on, you know, for me to get back in there, it's you guys, it's the early mornings, it's the emotions, like, God, I don't want to be blathering, but like, you know, finding your role, you know, the way everyone's talking about it, like, how do I fit in again, you know what I mean? And like, you know, I'm the young one, you know, historically, you know, I gotta look out for myself, you know what I mean? You know, you get inside your head about, well, I gotta, you know, and sometimes that comes out sideways, sometimes that, you know, comes out in an aggressive way or a sarcastic way, which was my big tool. Yeah, sick bastards! You can't say anything! You can't say tool?
I think it was big tool.
But the thing I remember most, well, one of the things is, me and Nasri got into a fight. You know, we got into a fight because it was his personalities. It was a lot for me to take, you know, and like my competitive nature. And I look back and it's like, I look back, you know, gently and kindly, you know, to myself, you know what I mean? It's all growing pains. And I'll wrap this up, but like, what this reunion, you know, on a personal level, and I shared this before, is like, you know, I got to learn how to be an adult, you know what I mean, around other people. You learn by making mistakes, you know what I mean? In those first couple of years, it was rough going, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes there was so much joy and excitement, but, you know, that's what I remember is like, you know, and that's a big part of a group getting back together is personalities, you know, and rolling with it. And a lot of it does make sense, but, you know, to make it work, you know, you gotta, you know, you gotta learn from the mistakes, and, you know, that's what I remember. Along with, also from the music side, it was great. Like, I remember Summertime, you know, when Donnie played me Summertime, I just got hyped, you know what I mean? And like, I think Donnie and I have a history of like, touching base on certain music that, you know, I feel, I know he's there for me, and he's always saying, yes, 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 go, go, go. And I do the same. You gotta be honest, it's not all the time, but when I love a song, you know, from Summertime to, you know, Boys in the Band, you know what I mean? No one loves Boys in the Band and 80s Baby more than me, you know what I mean? So, but Summertime, I remember that too. I remember cutting that vocal in that little studio, you know, and that electricity and newness, you know. So there was a lot of that too, and it was a lot of energy in that time, you know what I mean?
For sure. Not to just to pick up, like, we all were doing the same thing, just in our own way, you know. I probably would have been frustrated and stuff too, and gone through different changes. But I just fortunately had just done 2 years of therapy because my marriage was ending. So I was ready to work with all personalities. Like the sarcasm would come out, and I just thought of my therapist. I'd be like, okay. He's expressing something in his own unique way, and I'm here to receive it, and I'll do my best. And sometimes I would take that role. You know, we all had our journeys and discoveries. Just the thing with Nasri for me, and I'll move on. You weren't the only one that got frustrated, because like Red One is another producer we worked with. We'll get to him in a second. But Nasri would sing all the time. You guys know he sings, he's in Magic, and he sings, "Marry that girl, marry her anyway." He's a phenomenal songwriter. He's written hits for everyone, but we were the first band that he really worked with that got his break. But I just took the approach with Nasri. Besides, I love playing ping pong and hanging out with him. He just would sing all the time, and I was like walking behind him, like with a shovel, like shoveling the songs up and putting it in a satchel on my back. Like he'd be like, ah, and I'd be like, that's a song, and I'd put it right here. And then literally, we were at Guitar Center, and he walked up to a keyboard. We had to get a keyboard to build the studio in my house, and he just walked up and he goes, "I can just stare at you forever." And he was like, "That's all I got." And I was like, "Play some more." And he played a few more chords, and I was like, "I could be here with you, doing whatever." And then I literally took a line from my therapist, which was, "It's not the way you look that brings me to my knees, it's the way you look at me." We wrote it in Guitar Center. It just happened because I don't know, my heart was open. I was just listening all the time and looking for things. And to your point, summertime, different songs would resonate. You know, it's like I've learned from you. Like, I don't think Boys in the Band happens or 80s Baby. I don't write those songs if I wasn't in a band with you, seeing how you write songs. You know, I think we learned from each other. It's like we learned to craft. Like, even the falsetto part and the in the 80s Baby, it was like, I heard that in the studio. It's like, Jordan, this record, we gotta make this record. Jordan's gonna sing that. It's like, it's when you're in the band and you know the personalities, it just, and you trust it, it just kind of, the universe will show you everything you want. It will all come to you. And in friendships too.
Some sexual innuendo.
Oh, it'll,
One of the words you said.
it'll come to you. What was it? I don't even know what I say. Anyway, the journey with Nasri brought us to meet Red One, who is now one of the most prolific producers in the world, who's produced Lady Gaga's album, produced Jennifer Lopez, I mean, you name it. He's one of the most iconic producers of all time. Go ahead, sorry.
We'll get to Red One in a minute, but Sean, I'm curious about you. You know, they were sort of motivated by the music, but what brought you back to the band?
What brought you back?
We needed somebody with the best hair in the business. I just saw his hair. John's always complaining about his hair, and it always looks marvelous.
What brought me back? I actually was going through some stuff as well before New Kids got back. Business was not doing well. It was the big crash of '08 in real estate. And I was just ready to get out of houses and all that stuff. And I think you called Jordan. And Jordan was like, somebody wants to talk to you.
Well,
And it was you.
no, it's more like, well, you better talk to John. I ain't fucking asking him. You brought him along for the ride the first time. He was like, yeah, not this time. You worked on it.
You know, and I mean, I had a lot of reservations about coming back, and I know, talking to the guys. I'm too old to get this. There was a lot of things. I think I'm so. I think getting back together was a lot of talking with these guys, and I knew how crazy it was round one, and it was fun, but it was hell as well. Like, it just got to a point where you wanted to get off the bus. The bus was just figuratively was a little. We weren't on a bus. Yeah, and it wasn't fun, and I walked away. And that always haunts me, that I left these guys, and then here's an opportunity to get back together, and I was still not really sure, I hadn't come out publicly yet, and that was always on my mind. I didn't even tell these guys, like, that shot of us in the studio, I think that's when we first, started talking about it, Hey, John's gay, pass the butter.
I think we already knew, John, but we were just waiting for you to catch up.
That is true. I was telling a story yesterday in the 90s when I was in a hotel room with my current boyfriend. We are butt naked under the covers. Donnie comes walking in the room with Flavor Flav.
Anthony, I was there too. I was there.
True story. And these fools jump on the bed and just start jumping around with me and this naked boyfriend of mine in the bed. So that was, yeah, you did know.
No, I know. I remember it. That's when I learned. You waited 18 years to tell me, but I figured it out that day.
I knew before that.
Yeah. But no, that was such a great memory. We were in a hotel in LA. No, it was a poignant moment for me because, I was a huge Public Enemy fan, and it didn't sway my opinion of anything, but someone came up to my room and said, Flavor Flav's in the lobby and he's looking for you. And I went downstairs and he was like, Donnie! And we hugged and he went crazy and he met my mom and he was like, Mom's won! And Danny was there and he literally said, I want to see all the other guys. We had met him a few times before and he knew I was a huge fan. What did I say? Okay. Just a quick story. So we went up the elevator looking for everyone. We found Jordan, we found Joey, and we went to John's room, and they changed the rules in the hotels. The housekeeper was right outside. We said, can you let us in the room? And she said, okay. So we walked in, and it was like 2 PM, and they were under the covers. And I mean, I didn't think nothing of it, but what was really wonderful was Flavor Flav was like, what's up, John? And jumped on the bed. We jumped on the bed. It was like, it was so wonderful and normal. There was nothing out of the ordinary. In our hearts and in our minds. It was like, all right, this is what it is. Okay? And Flavor Flav was the same way. It was so, nothing. Like, we didn't walk out the door and go, what was going on in there? Were they cold or were they doing it?
I don't know if you went first, but you did the same thing to my,
Were you naked?
We don't want to hear the story.
Paint the scene for us.
Nothing we say is gonna, no, but my brother was in my room.
Oh
And we were sleeping in the same bed. And so we had the same experience. Like, holy shit, you guys jumped on our bed. And my brother, of course, loved it. He was like laughing crazy, whatever. But I wonder if it was like, you know, that was part of it too. But I understand. I mean, we slept in the same room
All the time.
together all the time. So it wasn't that out of the ordinary. But
No, well, I thought the same thing. I literally had Jimmy Marsh and Dana, the North Side boys from back then, they were on tour with me, and we all slept in the same bed. Like, it was like, okay. We just kept our clothes on. It was the only difference. We might have spooned once in a while if it was cold, but that was all.
I have no idea how to segue out of this conversation.
It was all love. That's the beauty.
That's
It was all love. It was all love. And it always was. In that regard.
So now all of the Avengers have assembled. You're all back together. And you mentioned, you know, working with Nasri, Red One, all these great producers. And, you know, you mentioned Lady Gaga. How did this environment come about where you were being, you know, so generous with bringing other people in, being inspired by them, allowing them to creatively work with you? Was that just organic, or did you actively go out and search for those people?
I think it just started to come together. Word started to get around that the New Kids were back. Like you had said, it was a bubble. The bubble started expanding, and producers started to reach out. So Red One was someone who reached out, and had really only done a lot of hip hop records at that point, but he could play like 10 instruments. He's a genius musician. And you know, that sort of opened another creative door. And it started where I think Nasri and I started working with Red One, and then Red One and I really developed a really close bond. And it kind of became him and I. And I think starting working with Nasri gave me confidence as a songwriter again, that eventually he started to do other things, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep going with Red One here and keep writing. And Red One, I think one night, and producers came from other places. Joey had a friend named E-Man, who most of you guys know of. And he was like, can you go write with E-Man tomorrow? And I was like, yep, I'll go. And he was like, give him a chance, he's great. And I went and did a session with him, which is where 2 in the Morning came from. We wrote that song with him and Casey Livingston. And the next day or a week later, we had to record it. And so we had to do 2 sessions at one time in the same building. So we were recording 2 in the Morning in one room with E-Man, and down the hall we were writing Big Girl Now with Red One. And it was a really cool time because we would walk down the hallway and there was Usher who was recording in another studio, and like all these superstars were coming through and they were all excited to see us and we were excited to see them. And the magic just started to flow. It just started to become a thing where all these, you know, collecting thoughts and ideas and meeting with people just started to produce all these opportunities. And from working with Red One, he would always, one of the ways he would introduce himself to us and to get us familiar with his sound was he would play Lady Gaga. And her music was phenomenal. And it was like, oh my God, this is great. And then Joey had seen her somewhere and he was like, I saw that Lady Gaga at the Grove or something.
Oh yeah,
and he was like, man, she's a star. She's a
oh
star.
my goodness, she came in. Just, I mean, it was just a regular restaurant, and she had gold leggings on, like sparkly, like unbelievable, as if she was on stage, you know. And no one knew who she was, but she was with Red One, and yeah. So.
Yeah, and so Jordan and I were singing 2 in the Morning and writing Big Girl Now. Jordan demoed all the Gaga parts, so more about that later. But it was an amazing demo of me and Jordan being New Kids and Gaga. But when we wrote Big Girl Now, we thought, let's make it a duet. And we were like, we have to get a female singer to sing it. And we were like, we'll get Britney, or we'll get Christina Aguilera. Everyone's so excited, we're reunited. And Red One suggested having Gaga demo it.
and just do a reference vocal for whatever female artist was gonna sing it. And she sang it, and we knew. I think we were all in the studio together.
That's the imitation I would do of her.
Yeah.
Of her.
We were in the studio, and we knew right there. We were like, we don't want any other artist on this song. We want Lady Gaga on this song. And we had already discussed her opening for us on tour, and it was something that I think Red One and I bonded over. It was like, please help her get the opening spot on your tour. And I was like, we will. And as we went on, when she sang that part on the record, she slayed it. I mean, she killed it. And it was like, doesn't matter if nobody knows her, if nobody ever knows her, if this is her record. And it made it easier to bring her on tour. But one of the amazing moments that came from that is when we did those sessions with her, she asked at the end of recording Big Girl Now if I would write with her. And I was like, heck yeah. I mean, I'd heard her album, I knew she was great, but I said, we're coming tomorrow, can you come back? And she was like, yeah. And she came back. In that following session, we wrote Full Service together. And we had talked, I think all of us had talked about, we were starting to duet with people. We were starting to expand, and we were getting songs with other people, and it was like we really had sort of mentioned doing a song with New Edition. And there was no song that was right for it. There wasn't anything that was the song, but when we started writing Full Service, I was like, this could be the song. This could really be it. So while we were in the middle of writing, I called Johnny Gill, who is a dear friend, and I said, where are you? He said, I just landed at Burbank Airport. I said, can you come over? And he came over immediately, sang the demo, and that led to us in New Edition recording, I think it's safe to say, the dream song for everyone in the band, a song with our idols, New Edition.
And so, what was it like being in the studio with Gaga? I mean, we have to imagine who she was back then, but you could see it. I mean, could you tell that she was going to become like one of the biggest stars on the planet?
Well, sorry, go ahead.
No, I remember Gaga walking in, like when we would have dance rehearsals and stuff. And I didn't even know who she was, but she just walked by, and I'm like, I thought she was already like this huge star. But I mean, her coming on tour with us, like her work ethic was crazy. She would do shows with us, and then after the show, she'd go to like 3 nightclubs. Like she'd be out till like 2, 3 in the morning, just going. It kind of reminded like what we did back in the day. You really gotta hustle. And then when her first single.
Just Dance.
Just Dance, yeah. That one. When that came out, I was like, she's going places. It took a little, like, she always dressed weird and like weird things. So I was like,
she didn't have any money, so she was making her own clothes, so they had that vibe about it, but
Yeah.
like she'd have like a hood on and glasses.
She was like the superhero in those
You'd just be having
movies.
coffee and she'd walk
They
in.
have like the cheap outfits on, and then they become big, and then they get the really cool outfits.
Yeah.
But like what Joe was saying, she would come into the studio, and yeah, she had an aura for sure. When you see her now, she's always over the top. But even then, she was just a creative person. I'd be like, where'd you get that tie? Or where'd you get this? Or that hat? And she'd go, oh, I made it. Like, she was like into all of that fashion and the clothes all on her own. So it definitely was it's not like she met a stylist and a stylist made her. She was her. She made herself. Yeah.
I still remember that vocal. The vocal we hear on Big Girl Now. It's like, she just had it. You know what I mean? I still remember it, like hearing it in the studio, her recording it, and that's why I always say I hope she does more like R&B like that, because she does it all, and I know she can do the opera and everything, but like, I mean, for someone who was like so in the zone, mostly off her first album, like That Sound, I mean, it was very cool to like, you know, it was special, you know what I mean?
Joe, I'm really wanting you to do the dance that she did at the recording board.
Well, she would, because she would just, yeah. And she didn't get, you know, she was just like right in, but like, she would stand there, like in front of the board.
He does that perfectly. That's so funny.
That's what she would do. That's pretty much it. You know, every time, she couldn't help herself. She couldn't help herself, every she came.
That's great. So, how do you know when the album is done? How do you know like it's ready to be released to us?
When it's like being printed. We learned an interesting thing about how the music business changed since we were kids and now making an album ourselves as adults. So thought we were getting pretty close, and the way the industry kind of worked, at least in 08, I don't know what it does now. We do New Kids, you know, we're here at BlockCon, we won't make a song, we put it out for you guys, it's like we have our own thing. I don't consider us part of the industry. We're in the blockhead business and that's it. Like, this is our thing. We're for you guys. But producers, there's only so many people at that time in 2008 that could get played on the radio. And now it's probably even smaller, right? There's like 10 artists with, you know, you'd always hear a certain artist over and over again. And there's like a 10 artists maybe. And the producers, the top producers, grab their best songs and save it. And when they think that what they'll do is we would get a lot of demos from people and it'd be like, wait, who's singing this demo? And they'd be like, oh, Pussycat Dolls, but don't worry about that. What happened was Pussycat Dolls recorded it and then they didn't want it. And the producer's like, you take it. You know, they're trying to place their songs, right? So, but when a producer gets, although we did do one of those, Lights, Camera, Action was first recorded for the Pussycat Dolls, but it was meant for us, so that worked out great. But the top producers, they find a gem, they hold it. Right? And they sort of wait, and they wait till the album of the artist they're looking at is almost done. And at the end, right when you think you're done, it's like, all right, album's done. And they go, oh, no, it's not. Here comes Timbaland with the song, or here comes Teddy Riley with the song, and that started happening. And the problem was the songs were great. So we were close to the finish line. And Joe and I went to a basketball game. We were going to the Celtics and Lakers championship game in 2008. Sorry. And Jimmy Iovine from Interscope Records. I had signed Marky Mark to Interscope Records in 1991 and produced their first #1 song that label ever had, Good Vibration. So Jimmy and I reconnected when we felt we had enough music to get the album going, to get an album deal. And so the Celtics won the championship and I didn't have tickets in LA, so I called Jimmy, I said, hey, I need your Laker tickets to go to see the Celtics tonight. So Joey and I hopped in a limo with the producer, Polo the Don. And Polo produced Usher and all these huge hit records. And he kept playing this record in the car. And like, we're close to the finish line of the album. And it's like, he played it, and he played it, and he played it, and it was a song by Neo, and we're like, but we're talking, he's not, you know, we don't know what's going on, he's just playing it, and yeah, so what have you guys been up to, and where do you want to go to eat after the game? And played it again. And I don't know how it came to be, but maybe a week it was, right, later, Joey called me and was like, hey, I just heard Jimmy Iovine wants us to do single. And I was like, that song in the car that Polo kept playing over and over, the Neo record? And he was like, yeah, I'm going to sing it now. And we went and did it, and so the album extended, and that became a process. That whole recording of that song was a process.
And to piggyback on, Jimmy Iovine and Donnie's relationship with Jimmy Iovine and Jordan's relationship with Jimmy Iovine and for his solo album. But, Jimmy Iovine's, for those of you who don't know, he's a legend in the music business, as far as, I think he started like engineering Beatles records. And so, he's a legend, and that, having that kind of a guy can slow things up too, right?
Yeah.
Because, and Donnie's so
We need
good.
the right, just one more song.
Yeah.
We're missing one.
Right. And I'm the kind of guy banging your head off the wall like, I'm done, we're done, let's go, and you have to juggle that, and of course we did, and, to your point, like Teddy Riley, all these great people, those songs, and talk about songwriting and all the stuff, seeing that and enjoying you hadn't been in the studio in 15 years or something, like writing. So it was just like all that energy and all that focus was great to watch. And frankly, I'm glad, because I wrote music too, but like talking about the dynamics of the group, I feel it was heaven sent that I didn't feel the need to write, you know what I mean? Because that can stop up the flow of it too, you know what I mean? But what I was focused on was singing as much shit as I could get my hands on. You got Jordan Knight and Donnie Wahlberg and these other guys in the group. You gotta grind sometimes. So and that was one of the songs, and it was single. And I think I called. It's not like I knew, but like I was literally in the car at 10:30 at night, driving to the studio. Like I'm going now, And it was the Neo song. It was single, and I went in there, and luckily Adam. That was a clue too. We had been working with Adam, Nasri's partner, so they let him record the vocals, that's the little things that are important to do, because we had a comfort level already with him, and it's like, let's go. And I went in there, and I just connected with the vocal, and we got a great vocal, and these guys support me all the time. And Jordan, you don't always say much, but I do remember everything you say. He did like 2 bad things to me in my whole life, and I remind him all the time. You stole my cheeseburger once. Anyways, but you were impressed with my vocal. The next day, you're like, yo, you're like, you gave her one of those. Like, you're like, yo. And I was like, yes. So that's what I remember about that song. And then you went in and sang the chorus, and you killed the chorus, and then Jay finished it off, and so for a second, it was gonna be, we thought it just might be our record.
Right.
But the backstory, we're gonna talk about that all the while, like, Neo
Was not happy about this. He didn't know anything about this. It's okay, Jordan. We'll be here. We do need bathroom breaks sometimes, guys. Sorry.
Us too.
No, Neo. Jimmy Iovine called and said, "Hey, Neo wants his record back." We're like, didn't you talk to him about this in the first place? And he was like, well, kind of, not really. So I called Neo, and he was a gem. He was just amazing about everything. He said, "You guys sound great. I love it, but I want my song." And I knew, like, I can move on from off of things quickly. I'm just like, okay, if this door closes, I'm going in the next door. So I knew I could live without the song, even though it was amazing. And we, like, the next day after we recorded, we were doing a photo shoot. We played it for 10 hours straight. Like, we were obsessed with the song. But I was facing the reality that it might go away. So I was like, okay, well, I can maybe get over losing it, but Joey won't. So I called Neo, and we talked it out, and he was like, "Look, can we make it a duet?" And I was like, that would be an honor for us to share it with you. He said, okay, but on my album, it's gonna be just me. So if you ever heard the version of Neo on the radio, just him, that's why. It was his, like Joey, his favorite song on the block, single. Neo's favorite song on his album was single. And that level of passion from both of these men about that song left me to try to mediate to save it for all of us. And Neo was so gracious, and we hung up the phone and it was a done deal. He was like, I'm in, I'll do a video with you guys. Let's take it the full 9 and go with it. And thank goodness, because it's a very special song. I think you guys would agree. It really